FIDE Women's Grand Prix 2025 in Grosslobbing is started. In this video, let's see the game between Vaishali Rameshbabu against Nurgyul Salimova. In this game, we will learn how to prepare in middle game to win the ending game. White opens with a classic king's pawn, controlling the center and freeing the bishop and queen. Black responds with a Caro-Can defense, a solid opening that prepares to push d5 while keeping the pawn structure flexible. White reinforces the center with another pawn, aiming for a strong classical setup. Black strikes back in the center, challenging White's e4 pawn. White advances the pawn, locking the center and gaining space. This is the advanced variation of the Caro-Can. Bishop to f5 is the most popular move for Black against advanced variation, but White often attacked the bishop with g4. Some players didn't like that position. In this game, Salimova-Nurgyul refused to play bishop f5. She counterattacks in the center with c5, trying to undermine White's pawn structure. White supports the d4 pawn, preparing for a solid structure. Black develops the knight, eyeing the d4 pawn and preparing to increase pressure. White pins the knight, a common idea to disrupt Black's development. Black exchanges pawns to open the c-file and relieve pressure. White recaptures, maintaining a central pawn. Black kicks the bishop, forcing it to make a decision. White exchanged the bishop for the knight. Black recaptures. Now Black has an open b-file. White develops the knight to a natural square in c3. Black solidifies the center, preparing to develop the dark squared bishop and giving a space for the knight to maneuver to g6. White put knight to f3, completes kingside development. Black develops the knight to e7, prepare to g6. White push h4, a somewhat aggressive move, possibly preparing a kingside attack or discouraging knight g6. Black pushes a5 to expand on the queenside, possibly preparing to open the a-file or to develop the light square bishop. White castles to safety. Black centralizes the knight, not only eyeing d4 and possibly e3, but also attacking h4 pawn together with the queen. Therefore, White develops the bishop to attack to the king, increasing pressure. Black develops the bishop to cover the queen. White exchanges, removing Black's strong bishop. Black recaptures. Now h4 pawn is attacked. White push g3 to support h-pawn. Now everything is fine. This is a balancing position for both players. In the 14th move, Black pushes d5, strikes again at the d4 pawn, trying to open the position. White put the knight to a for a strange retreat, likely intending to reposition the knight. Pawn take on d4. Black opens a c-file. White recaptures with the knight. Black trades knights, simplifying the position. White recaptures, centralizing the queen. Black put the queen to b4, attacking the knight and offering to exchange the queen. White exchanges queens, heading into an endgame. Black recaptures. White knight is attacked by the rook. But White has two pawns against one pawn in the queen side. In this position, Vaishali Rameshbabu teach us how to make a great plan in the middle game to win the ending game. Vaishali realized that most of her pawn located on dark square. At the same time, the dark square bishop has gone. Black only has a light square bishop. In this kind of position, the knight will be more active to attack than the bishop. So Vaishali plans to exchange all the rook and achieve the classical ending good knight versus bad bishop. In 19th move, White doesn't protect the knight with pawn. White activates the knight to c5. Black develops the bishop, offering the knight to take it. Of course, White refused the offer. White centralizes the rook to d1. Black moves the king toward the center, preparing for an endgame and connecting the rooks. White responds and puts the rook to d4. White's rook eyes the b4 pawn. Black advances the pawn. In this position, White can take this pawn with the knight. But it will open a chance for Black to counterattack in the queen side. And if pawn take on b3, White will lose the rook. Therefore, White pushes a3, fixes the pawn structure. Now, all of White's pawn on the dark square. The only next mission for white to win the game is to exchange all the rook. Black put h-rook on the b file to protect b3 pawn. White shifts the rook to the c file, controlling an open file. Black put rook on b5. Give pressure to the knight. Black hope the knight is scared and take the bishop. But once again, white maintain her good knight and doesn't change it for a bad bishop. White repositions the knight to d3. Black retreats, possibly preparing to put the rook on c8. White's rook attacked the b3 pawn. Black repositions the rook, possibly for counterplay. White pushes f4 to secure more space. Black's king moves toward the queen side. White's king centralizes. Black challenges the rook on the c file. White exchanges rooks, simplifying. Black recaptures, now with an active king. But black only has one rook left, and white will fight to exchange that rook. White's king moves forward to e3, occupying the center. Black's rook shifts to a more active file. White plays rook b4, offering to exchange the rook. Black refuses and opts to challenges the e5 pawn. In this position, exchanging the rook is the best move for white. But Vaishali postpones it. She opts to play king d4. White's king becomes very active. Black's rook to c6, eyeing the c file. White's knight jumps back into action to c5, threatening rook b7 to win position. Black retreats the bishop, prevent the rook to b7. White finally takes the pawn. White lead one pawn, and now white has two passed pawns on queen side. Black activates the bishop to a6, trying to fight back. White puts the rook along the c file to set a little trap. If black doesn't anticipate it with the right move, white will win a piece. For example, if black pushes h-pawn, knight take the bishop on a6 and win the bishop. Rook cannot take the knight. Therefore, black's king moves back to avoid it. But after white plays knight a4, black resign. Black cannot refuse to exchange the rook. If the game continue, white has an active knight and black bishop cannot attack white's pawn.